For over 60 years, no one found fragments of an ancient biblical book, but that has now changed. One of the most well-known and ancient stories is that of Adam and Eve, which is deeply rooted in our culture. This story speaks of the Garden of Eden, a magical place described in an ancient text called Sefer HaTuna, or the Book of Image. For many years, the story of Adam and Eve was engraved in our minds. The forbidden fruit, the serpent's temptation, and the expulsion from paradise. But what if this story holds more secrets? What if there is a hidden chapter, a lost book, waiting to be discovered that could reveal a truth even more astonishing than we thought? Could these new biblical fragments show the true story of Adam and Eve? Is a hidden chapter of the Bible about to change everything we know about the Garden of Eden? Scholars have been searching for this text for many years, and now rumors have become reality. Archaeologists believe they have found this real version of the story. But what could be so frightening about these newly discovered pages? How could a book lost for so long hold such disturbing secrets about the creation of humanity? What they discovered is not a story that brings comfort. Each found page raises more questions than answers. In the heart of the Egyptian desert, amidst the buried treasures of Pharaoh Tutankhamun's tomb, an extraordinary discovery was made: the legendary books of Adam and Eve. These ancient manuscripts, first published in 1926 and dating back to the early days of Christianity in Egypt, are considered one of the oldest books in the world. Now, this treasure of wisdom and mystery is about to be auctioned, drawing the attention and desire of many ambitious people. Before continuing with the video, remember to leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive notifications of new videos. That way, you won't miss any new content. Have you ever wondered what happened to Adam and Eve after they were expelled from the Garden of Eden? This book tells their story and reveals a fascinating set of ancient beliefs known as the Apocalypse of Moses, which is also called the Books of Adam and Eve. There is much discussion about the date and authenticity of this work, but many scholars believe it reflects very ancient traditions. Paul, one of the great writers of the New Testament, likely knew of this text, as he references it in his letters, such as in 2 Corinthians, where he speaks about the creation and fall of man. The original story is presented as a revelation that Moses would have received, but the Latin version begins differently with a translation into English. Although the exact date of its creation is a mystery, it is believed to have been written in the 1st century AD in a Semitic language. It is possible that this story was told orally for a long time before being written down. The main versions we have today in Latin are from the 9th, 10th, and 12th centuries, and they give us an intriguing glimpse into these ancient traditions and how they have changed over time. Have you ever wondered why this book was left out of the Bible? What might it tell us about the true story of Adam and Eve after they were expelled from the Garden of Eden? Let's explore the time-worn pages of this ancient manuscript, dive into a story that was passed down orally for generations, and discover why an anonymous Egyptian author decided to write this story in Arabic, which was only translated into English in the 19th century. The history of this book has not been well documented because many people believed it to be a work of pseudepigrapha, which are books considered fictitious, even though they contain historical elements. As a result, the book was excluded from the Bible. However, it offers important context and a deeper understanding of historical events. This book is essentially a story that was passed down from generation to generation until someone decided to write it down, connecting the creation of the first human life to the moment it was recorded. So, get ready, because the story is just beginning to get interesting. The Book of Adam and Eve is said to recount what happened after Adam and Eve were expelled from the Garden of Eden. It is also known as the contradiction of Adam and Eve, or the conflict of Adam and Eve with Satan. When the serpent spoke to Eve, it said, "The Creator said that you must not eat the fruit of the tree that is in the middle of the garden, nor touch it, or you will die." But the serpent replied, "Certainly you will not die. The Creator knows that on the day you eat of this fruit, your eyes will be opened, and you will become like Him, knowing good and evil." Satan tried to convince Adam and Eve that the Creator was untrustworthy and that the fruit was actually good for them. The Book of Adam and Eve is divided into two parts. The first begins with Adam and Eve's departure from Eden, where they face numerous temptations from Satan. A surprising revelation is that Cain and Abel had twin sisters. The tragedy occurs when Cain, in love with his twin sister, Luluva, becomes enraged upon discovering that his parents wanted him to marry Awan, Abel's twin sister. This culminates in Cain's murder of Abel. In the second part of the book, we are taken to the time of the patriarchs before the flood. The descendants of Seth lived on Mount Hermon, a sacred mountain, until they were persuaded by Jano and Cain's daughters to descend from the mountain, thus losing the Creator's favor and becoming like fallen angels. The narrative continues with Cain's death, which was caused by a blind man, and guides us through the lives of the patriarchs until the birth of Noah. Despite being an ancient story, the book addresses universal themes such as love, jealousy, betrayal, and redemption, connecting us to the deep roots of human history. By exploring these primordial events, the book reveals the complexity of human relationships and the eternal conflict between good and evil. The fall of the descendants of Seth and the violence that permeates their stories reflect the fragility of human nature and the constant quest for forgiveness and renewal. The book highlights Adam's deep sadness and helplessness in the world outside Eden. When the Creator expelled Adam from the garden, he avoided placing him in the northern border, fearing that if Adam and Eve bathed in the water, they would be purified of their sins and forget the mistake they had made. Similarly, he did not allow Adam to live in the southern border of the garden, as the northern wind might bring the sweet aroma of the Eden trees. The Creator feared that by smelling this aroma, Adam would find solace in his sin and not seek purification. But the story doesn't end here. The Creator, merciful and full of compassion, governs all things with infinite wisdom, always seeking the good of His creations. After Adam and Eve were expelled from the Garden of Eden, the Creator decided that they should live in the western border of the garden, in a vast and unknown land. He commanded them to dwell in a cave called the Cave of Treasures, which lay beneath the garden. Imagine how difficult it was for Adam and Eve to leave such a beautiful and vibrant place for a strange and frightening land. They were used to the garden, with its green and fruitful trees, and now found themselves in a land full of stones and sand, not knowing what to expect. Upon reaching the entrance of the garden and looking at the land ahead, they felt such fear that they fell to the ground, almost as if they were dead from terror. The Creator, seeing their suffering, had compassion and sent His word to comfort and uplift them. Adam and Eve cried as they left the garden, their first home. Adam was very sad to notice the changes in his body, deeply lamenting the consequences of what they had done. They walked slowly to the Cave of Treasures, and upon arriving, Adam cried again and said to Eve, "Look at this cave. This is where we will be punished in this world." How does this cave compare to the garden? The narrowness of this place compared to the vast space of the other. This rock compared to those woods. The darkness of this cave compared to the light of the garden. This rocky ledge that shelters us compared to the Lord's mercy that protected us. The hard soil of this cave compared to the fertile land of the garden. This land covered with stones compared to that planted with delicious fruit trees. With each word, we can feel Adam's anguish, the pain of someone who lost a paradise and now must face a strange and frightening world. This story makes us reflect on how fragile human beings are and how we are always seeking redemption and comfort in difficult times. Adam was reluctant to enter the cave under the rocky ledge, but did so because the Creator had commanded it, fearing that disobedience would be another mistake. On the morning of the 43rd day, they left the cave, sad and tearful. Their bodies were thin and weakened by hunger and thirst, a result of fasting, praying, and deep sadness for having disobeyed the Creator. After Adam and Eve left the cave, they climbed a mountain west of the Garden of Eden. There they stood and began to pray, asking the Creator to forgive their sins. They were very sad for having disobeyed God. As they cried and prayed, something very special happened. The Creator saw how much Adam was suffering and decided to speak to him. God said, "Adam, when you were in the garden, you did not know what hunger, thirst, tiredness, or sadness were. But since you disobeyed and came to this new land, all these difficulties have started to appear." God, being very kind, asked an angel named Cherubim, who was guarding the entrance of the garden with a fiery sword, to take some fruits from the garden trees and give them to Adam and Eve. Cherubim, obeying God, entered the garden and picked 2 figs, one for Adam and one for Eve. But since the fiery sword was very powerful, Adam and Eve could not get too close to the angel, so he threw the figs from a distance. Previously, angels were afraid of Adam because he was very special to God, but now it was Adam who was afraid of the angel. Even with fear, Adam went to get the fig first, and then Eve took the other one. When they held the figs, they remembered the trees from which the fruits came, the same trees where they had hidden in the garden. This made them very sad, and they began to cry. Meanwhile, Satan, who wanted to deceive Adam and Eve, transformed, along with his followers, into very beautiful maidens. They emerged from a river and went to Adam and Eve. The maidens were so beautiful that Adam and Eve were amazed and wondered if there was another world with beings as beautiful as those maidens. Curious, Adam and Eve asked the maidens how they lived and multiplied. The maidens explained that they had husbands and children, and their families grew and multiplied. Then, the husbands and children of the maidens also emerged from the river, forming a large and beautiful family. This encounter made Adam and Eve realize how much they had lost by disobeying God. They were fascinated by the beauty of the maidens, but also felt deeply saddened when they remembered all that they had in the Garden of Eden and no longer had. Satan, wanting to deceive Adam again, thought, God said Adam would die if he ate from the tree, but he did not die immediately. Now, if I can get Adam to disobey again, God will kill him. Despite the temptation, Adam resisted because he feared disobeying God once more. He and Eve returned to the cave and spent the night praying. Adam was worried and didn't know how to pray, feeling confused about what to do. He continued in this state until dawn. Seeing Adam's effort to resist temptation and seek what was right, God was pleased with Adam's concern. God spoke to him again, saying that if Adam had been as careful from the beginning, he could have avoided many difficulties. This story shows that even when we make mistakes, God is always willing to forgive us if we show sincerity in our repentance and strive to do what is right. Adam and Eve learned that faith and obedience to God are very important, even when facing tough challenges. If you enjoyed the story and want to support the channel, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. You can also become a member to further encourage the content. See you next time.